Después de mi 9 to 5 como actriz, me subo a mi Corolla y voy directo al estudio a mi 5 to 9, donde convierto mis sentimientos en canciones. Mis hustles me mueven y me inspiran. Hola hustle, hola Corolla.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Welcome to another episode of the Brown and Black Podcast. My name is Jack Rico.
And I'm Mike Sargent.
And every week we take a look at race and pop culture through a brown and black lens. Mike, I'm really excited about our guest today. It's the CEO of the Recording Academy, Harvey Mason Jr. He blesses us with a third visit here on the Brown and Black Podcast. And in this episode, we're going to discuss AI and the future of music, Mike, because I do feel that maybe outside of the election, this is one of the most important conversations in the industry for creators of color and what is happening with the music industry. I feel like AI is completely disrupting it, Mike.
I think AI is the ultimate disruptor for our culture. And this is a conversation that is more important than ever before.
AI can be a tool. And I think, Mike, that the conversation around AI has been, is AI a friend or a foe? Is it a tool that we can use to enhance the lack of resources, the lack of access to maybe making the movie or the TV show or that novel or that book or that anything that you wanted to do, and AI could help you? So how could it be possibly an enemy?
That's the or.
Right, but like any good movie, Mike, what if?
AI falls into the wrong hands.
Yes.
And so I think that this discussion today is going to be very enlightening, because we have to find out what the Recording Academy is doing right now. And how are these protections going to be integrated into the music industry? There are so many people of color that could get left behind, Mike. And that, I think, is a major concern.
AI is a tool, but like you said, in the wrong hands. And we know there have been a lot of aspects of technology that have been used to hold brown and black folks back repeatedly.
So, Mike, you and I sat down with Harvey, and we began with the following. You're currently leading the Recording Academy through a period of seismic change in the music industry. Mike and I have been talking about this. It's like, dude, Harvey Mason Jr. is like on some Churchill shit, man, right now. It's like, this dude is facing things that most leaders just don't face on a Tuesday. So AI is poised to transform how music is created, how music is distributed, and how music is monetized. And I don't know if another leader before you has had to face anything like that. We've heard of music producers as well, but like Quincy Jones, but he wasn't the leader of the Recording Academy, worried about a whole industry, worried about protecting rights for artists, worrying about your own creative rights as a producer. And so anyone right now, Harvey, can go to platforms like Suno, Udio, write a song from scratch, and then create the music video on Runway ML. And so there are legitimate concerns that, while this is awesome for a lot of people that got no budget to do their music videos, there is the risk of devaluing human creativity.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So Given the stakes, Harvey, given how high the stakes are, how are you approaching this moment as a leader? What challenges are you facing, and how do you envision your role needing to evolve just to meet this challenge?
You said a lot, Jack. You said so much. First of all, I'll say thank you. I'm excited to be with you all. I love what you're doing. And this conversation in particular is an important one. And I'll start by saying, personally, I'm scared to death about the effect AI is going to have on music and music creators like me. There's just so much happening, so much changing, so much uncertainty, and it's going so quickly. The music industry has not always been known for moving quickly. We got caught off guard with the streaming stuff, and I just don't want to see that happen again with AI. So as much as I'm nervous about it, I see the value of AI. I'm a creator. I've been using AI for probably 9 or 10 years. I've always an early adopter to new technologies. I was on Pro Tools when I first started in 2 tracks, and people were freaking out like, oh, how are we going to use Pro Tools? This is horrible for the industry. And synthesizers were replacing string players, and not replacing them, but threatening. Yeah. I mean, since the beginning, when, I don't know, live musicians worried about the phonograph, we've seen technology disrupt. We've always adapted, and we've been able to use these tools to enhance human creativity. This one's uniquely scary because it has the power to make music across a lot of genres that people like without any human interaction. So my role, I hope, can be to serve and support the music community, which is what I'm always trying to do in my everyday life, in the sense that we have to advocate. We have to make sure that we're talking to anyone who will listen, whether that's podcast hosts or leaders of tech platforms, people who make laws, people who are running record companies. So advocating is a big part of this, because the way I see it is AI is happening. There's no going back. Yeah. It's going to be a part of the creative process, but let's make sure that it's done responsibly, ethically, maybe even morally, because this music is too important. This music is everything, and we can't afford to lose it and lose the humanity in it and give it over to pure technology. As much as I love tech, and as much as I'm going to use all the newest, greatest, coolest things, this is something we have to be very careful with.
You said something very powerful there, or important to me, which is morally and ethically. And that's probably one of my biggest concerns. And this is what I want to ask you. We know how any business is driven. It's profit driven. So if you've got a technology that's going to show you what people like, predict what will become viral, predict what is going to be consumed and where they're going to consume it. So they've got a level of control. They've got access, and I say corporations have access that the artist doesn't have. So the artist may never know that their song is about to be viral. But now that they've already done the research, then they can profit off of it. Now you, meanwhile, are just happy to get your deal. So just that is as a microcosm of this technology where we're going. Go ahead.
I was going to say, but think that's actually cool. To me, using AI in that way is of huge value. Increasing revenue and the monetization of our art, I'm all for that. And in fact, I'm supportive of AI in many ways. Where it gets a little foggy is if we're going to use AI to create the art.
Where I'm going is, like anything, technology can be used without morals or ethics. It's great if the deal is a good deal for the artist. Right. But if it's not a good deal for the artist,
we know how that always goes.
We know how that always goes. So I'm saying that to say, if people are embracing, like for instance, what happened with Bad Bunny, where Flow GPT made a whole song sounding like him, and it was selling better than him. So if AI can produce music that can take what you've done and make it sell better, and people get, let's say, addicted to this, how do we protect the artist? How do we protect the artist and their style and their originality and get
straightforward,
the audience?
Mike? It's straightforward. I'm great with AI being able to replicate someone else's voice. I'm great with AI making a music, using someone's voice or style or production sounds, as long as the person that it's taking gets to approve it, they get to be remunerated fairly, and they get credited properly. If those 3 things happen, Great. Bad Bunny says, hey, I want you to use my voice. I want you to make a song. I'm good with it. Here's how much I want to get paid. And here's the credit that it has to say. It has to say Bad Bunny AI or a different version of Bad Bunny. Then great. Some artists will say, I'm for that. Some artists will say, I absolutely do not want anyone touching my vocals. I don't want to be represented as if I'm singing something. That's great for them as well. And so that's where I say AI could be powerful, because if you're Bad Bunny, I hate to keep using him, if you're an artist and you want to continue to evolve or grow or expand your brand, and make music that maybe you didn't think of and sing songs in a different genre about different topics, and it works and it generates money for you and you're that type of artist, then great. But if you're the purist who wants to have complete control over their voice and likeness and only say the things that come from their heart, then they should be able to do that as well.
But then we start going into the gray area. And so this is the problem, Harvey. It's like you're not dealing with black and white issues, man. You're dealing with such gray areas that no rules have been invented for it. I know that you've been trying to create policies to get them approved because they've never been created before. So it's so hard to convince somebody of the gravity of the situation when they're not the creatives themselves. And so I think, building off of what Mike said, is we're falling into the position, Harvey, where we might just like AI music more than the artist music. This becomes reality TV versus HBO, where we are going for the mass produced because it's easy, it's catchy, it's simple, and it just gets me through the day. It's great background music. So that, I think, is a real concern, that AI music will become the soundtrack of our lives instead of the artist. So how would the Recording Academy, music institutions handle a switch like that if it's heading down?
Well, I first would contend that it's not heading down there. I think there will be AI that can generate music across a lot of genres that consumers will like. But no one can tell me that AI is going to make songs in the key of life or Nevermind or Illmatic or Blue. These are not happening. And yes, a new generation of people will potentially be, their taste will be diluted by an influx of the AI songs. Right now are generating 100 songs per second. So yeah, there's a chance that people are going to start hearing those and be like, yeah, those are fine. But to me, human creativity cannot be topped. To me, the stories that we have, that only we can tell. Other people can't tell. They haven't lived, they haven't loved, they haven't done the things that we've done. So I'm highly optimistic that if we compete, if we take this technology and use it to make new, incredible works, if we dig down into kind of all of our most creative spaces, that we will be able to make that next version of music that will be attractive to people and will resonate with humans. So I don't necessarily fear that AI is going to take all of our jobs. I fear that there needs to be regulations in place. There needs to be guide rails. There need to be approvals. There need to be ways that people can be compensated equitably. But as it relates to the Academy, right now, we don't reward or award AI in our process. So if you're AI vocal, you're not eligible for performance. If you're AI written song, you're not eligible for Songwriters Award. We completely acknowledge and accept the fact that AI is going to be used in creativity. So we're allowing that, but just not giving an award directly to an AI performance or an AI written song.
Mike, if I may just follow up on this one question. Are we heading down the route? Are there conversations, Harvey, right now having an AI category?
No.
Is that out of the question?
Nothing's out of the question, because you know how artists and creators move. We're going to do things different. We're always going to figure out something new and cool. So nothing is off the table. But I'll tell you this right now, until we get some understanding of ownership and copyright protections, how can we even submit music that we don't own or control or even technically and legally created? I met with the head of the copyright office. She was an amazing woman. She came to my studio and I walked her through these platforms, the ones that you mentioned even, and I was showing her the text prompt to music, and she was blown away. And so the threshold is human involvement has to take place before something's copyrightable. And so I did a prompt and I asked her, I said, is this human interaction. She said, no, that's not human interaction for creativity. And so I said, okay, what if I get the track back, change the key, change the tempo, change a few lyrics, prompt that and get another response? She says, oh, that's getting closer to human interaction. I said, if I do 3, is that human? She said, yeah, I think that would probably be it. And so I said, is it 2? Is it 3? How many prompts does it take to meet the threshold of human interaction? So until we can establish what is a copyrightable work, we can't even think about how to submit it for consideration for a Grammy or how to monetize it, or is it even illegal? So steps that have to take place before we get to that point.
So in other words, it has to be quantifiable what we consider art in this resort, or human art,
right?
Human-based art, which I think is science fiction-y to me. But I guess
we're measuring art,
exactly.
How many times we're interacting with the machine?
With the machine, yes, we are. So, but to your point, Harvey, because I agree with you, technology is not always embraced, like synthesizers, sampling. It's not music until it is. Right. And I'm wondering, what do you think? And again, I'm just going to give you a couple scenarios here. But let's say there's a digital version of, let's say, Milli Vanilli, where they don't meet that quantifiable, but they say they do. And then it's uncovered that they don't. Like what kind of guide rails do you think we're going to need just to, again, quantify, qualify? I think we're at a point where AI has to evaluate something, whether it's AI, and that may be technology on top of technology. What do you see happening in this area?
Because the Academy is going to have to integrate some sort of AI
at some
tools to just update and to handle the overload as well.
That's my thought.
Yes, and you're exactly right, Mike. We can't imagine how we're going to do that yet. We're still working through it, but the way I can envision it is there's AI being used to detect AI. And there's a lot of companies working on that, fairly trained AI, so that we can allow more AI to be involved, generative AI to be involved in our process once we know what has been used to train the models. If we know that, then there's at least some assignment or understanding of the copyright, who owns it. But we are going to have to be able to figure out and monitor how people are using AI. If there's an artist that's being replicated and it gets submitted for consideration, my hope is that the artist community is saying, hey, that's not me, and we're going to be aware of it pretty quickly. And that's happened a couple of times in the past. That actually happened last year with an artist and a song, or 2 artists that you all know that their voices were used for a song. It was a very popular song, was very successful on streaming, got taken down, but it got submitted into our process. And ultimately we came to find out, and we knew right away, just because I know the artist, that was not them. So once we were alerted to the fact that was not them, they were obviously disqualified and not considered.
So this is already happening to you.
It's happening.
Wow. Oh, wow. Man. We've been talking a lot about the vocal tracks, etc., but then you have the music video. What happens if the song is created by the artist, but the whole music video is AI? Is that a concern?
It's not a concern as it relates to the Grammys, except for one category, which would be Video of the Year. And at that point, we would have to evaluate it. But we know AI is used all across the creative process. I've been using AI, like I said, for years. We use AI to do sound analysis when you're mixing, to do pitch analysis when you're using auto-tune, when you're coming up with new synthesizers. Sometimes there's AI is recommending patterns for chord progressions, bass lines. So it's just, like you said, Mike, and actually Jack, you said the same thing. Like, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to think about. I absolutely don't have the answers. Right. I will admit that right off the bat. Everybody who's watching can listen, can hear me say there's no clear-cut answer, and it's something we're going to have to contend with, and it's moving really quickly. So the best we can do is try and adapt and try and stay ahead of what's happening, but also as cases come up, to your point, like a video, okay, what are we going to do with the video? Is that going to be allowed? Is it not going to be allowed? And those are the things that we have to take day by day.
We're talking about the future of AI, and I think you can't really talk about the future without talking about children. You can't talk about it without talking about education. And my concern is the devaluation of talent. Is it that you are very good at creating prompts versus actually learning an instrument or learning
This
music.
is great, man. I
You know what I'm
I
saying?
love this conversation. I love this. This is deep.
It is, because here's where we're at
What
now.
is art at the moment, right?
Well, not only what
Give
is it art, but here's where I'm going. We all know, as you commodify art and as it's got to be profitable, you're going to go for what costs less and what takes less. And so at a certain point, what's going to determine talent, and will people value their, if you could go to school now and have all of these degrees and got into debt to learn to play these instruments, but they'd rather just use the AI.
Some prompt engineer in art goes, hey, I became an expert in art.
So it will devalue all of that talent and skill and the person that practices every day.
It's completely valid. And this is the part of the conversation that gets really nuanced and heavy, because trying to discern what is actual talent and how you qualify something as great or artwork or creativity. I'll never forget, I was a kid and my dad is a musician. He's a world-class musician. He's one of the GOATs, in my opinion, as far as drummers. He's the most recorded drummer on record, I think. And he practiced for years to be great. And I remember when I was a kid, I was playing basketball. We'd go to my basketball games and I'd want to listen to hip hop. This is earlier in the age of hip hop. And I loved hip hop music. I love when they took samples and they flip them and rap over them. And I remember my dad saying, he would get frustrated. He was like, and that's not talent. And I was saying, but Dad, they're making cool music that I love. And he says, they don't play any instruments. I spent years practicing this instrument. And now they just take a record and just rhyme over it. So to me, that's a massive talent. And now to my dad, he's agreeing. He says, oh man, that's a talent. These guys are special, but they're special in a different way. So is a person who uses samples, or is a Pharrell less talented than a Mozart? And so now we're going to look at what the next generation of talent means and what the next generation of creativity means. Creativity to me is anything that somebody can come up with that's cool and that other people like and that resonate. So if you can do something that someone else can't do because you're doing something amazing with a new technology, that's a talent. That's a new talent. So when Elvis came out, when the Beatles came out, the people before them thought they weren't talented. They were bums. And so now we're looking at the people who are going to use the next version of talent, of technology, as, oh, that's not talent. That's not creativity. So I don't subscribe to that. I think we are going to find ways to make great things. I also think there's going to be a swing of the pendulum where people aren't going to want the fast food music. They're going to want music that is meaningful and people have spent time on and put their care and love and passion into. Those are the things that I think, as much as we'll have millions and millions of new generative AI songs, people are going to gravitate towards stuff that hits, that feels like something to them.
Harvey, what is the Recording Academy doing to make sure that art survives in schools today, especially for children, artists of color, little girls that want to be singers, little boys, brown and black boys that want to be the next Harvey Mason Jr., the next Harvey Mason? And how is the greatest music institution helping access resources, funding for the new generation of young American artists?
That's a long answer because there's so much. And I'm really proud of the things that we do in that space, because if it were not for me being exposed to music at an early age, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be making music. I wouldn't have done any of the things I've done. So exposing people to instruments, education, different genres of music, especially in underserved communities or in places where people don't have access, is something that we do a lot of. And I'm really excited about that. The scholarship and mentorship programs that we have in place through different parts of around the world, really, but around the country, for areas that would not have ordinary access to those things, is something that we're doing and spending a lot of time and resources on. Our programs with HBCUs and the pathways for students coming from there into the industry, not just as creators, but also as executives and attorneys, and just working in our industry, is something that I'm really proud of. The work that our Grammy Museum does around education. Just this year, we finally got to the point where the Grammy Museum is free to all kids under 18.
That's awesome.
Based on some fundraising that was done by the museum, so that anyone, especially from people that don't have the access, can come to the Grammy Museum and get their hands on instruments, touch and feel music, listen to every genre of music in an interactive way. So these are some of the things we're doing. There's a list of 50 other things that I wish we could go through, because this is what's so important, is the service work the Academy is doing, the lifting of the next generation. We talk about the awards. We all know the trophies and who got snubbed, who's pissed off at me and
the gossips.
wants to yell at us. Yeah. But man, the thing about the Academy that I was attracted to, and the reason I took the role as CEO, is because I wanted to, get the awards right. I wanted the nominations to be done accurately. I wanted our membership to be more representative of who we are as a music community. But beyond all that is I wanted to make sure that we were using this, as you said, esteemed institution to do good and to do well and to serve and uplift music people, our people. And so we've really adjusted and adapted, I think, our infrastructure to make sure that we're of that mindset. Like, how can we provide more? How can we shine a brighter light? How can we continue to lift up and give opportunities to music people? So hopefully that answers your question. I know that was a lot of information, but I'm passionate about this stuff.
Yeah.
You said something, I think, powerful. You remember getting to touch an instrument, or these kids now getting a chance to touch an instrument, as opposed to crafting a prompt. How important do you think it's going to become to be able to actually touch and understand how these instruments work versus hearing it and wanting it in your song versus actually seeing somebody play it, having that tactile experience with music?
It's like live music. Like, what's that going to look like moving forward? Right. Is
That's
it going
what
to be
I'm
a dude
saying.
behind a thing?
How many groups are actually on the charts these days versus individual artists that may have production behind them?
My thoughts personally is different than what I think probably I would say as the leader of the organization, the Academy. Personally, I would say I think it's really important because I'm a musician. I play an instrument. So I like that. I subscribe to it. And I think it's uniquely powerful to be able to express yourself through music and playing an instrument. I'm not the best musician at playing an instrument, but I play a few instruments. So I think that's always going to be important. Having said that, things change and the way people create changes. And just because Dr. Dre doesn't play the viola, or he doesn't know how to play a harp, but he knows how to play the heck out of a keyboard, a drum machine, a turntable, whatever it is, and he makes incredible, masterful art, it doesn't have me freaked out. Just like the next generation is going to use different tools to make something amazing, to make something that moves the world. How they do it, what they put their hands on to create it is probably going to change. I hope it continues to be instruments, but I'm pretty realistic to imagine there's going to be a lot of great things created by people who don't know a lot about instruments. Look at some genres of music now where I saw a guy on the plane the other day next to me making a record on his laptop. He didn't have a keyboard out. He was pushing the left-right arrows, and he was pushing Q, W, E to trigger sounds.
Wow.
And it was no less awesome a song than it would have been had he done it on a Steinway piano. So it's going to change. It's going to evolve. I love music. I love musicians. I grew up in a household full of musicians. So I hope, and I'm going to continue to push for the instrument and the proper official traditional training to be a part of music education, but it's going to evolve. It definitely is.
Harvey, the music industry isn't just the music itself. It's also the audience, the fan engagement, the consumers that go to the concerts, that buy the albums, that make the music industry what it is. But I feel like more and more art is being commodified to the point where fans or super fans are being now the ones that are footing the bill for the artist. So because art is becoming more commodified day by day, what do we have to do to avoid turning the fans into banks? Do you think that's fair?
It's a tough question. I don't know if it's a question of fairness. I think it's a question of appetite and what people love and what they choose to support. the most popular artists in the world are definitely making the majority of the money. And we've got an entire class of musicians that are not making that level of money. And it's unfortunate. There is a part of our industry that is aspirational. We're always trying to get to the next level, trying to get more popularity, or the way I like to think of it is create more interesting music, more interesting art that more people will like and that will resonate with more fans or consumers. But as far as it being fair or not, it's hard to say. I know that there's always been a huge component of the fans are the ones who really bankroll all music people's career, because ultimately the labels are trying to sell to the fans, the touring companies are trying to sell to the fans, and the fans subsidize pretty much everything. That's how the labels exist. Were there no fans, there would be no labels, so, or publishers, or touring companies for that matter. So, tough question.
I love your attitude about everything, so positive that, okay, we're going to have a ton of AI, but if you do really good work, you're going to break through. So in many ways, AI is a challenge for the artist now to be even more authentic, because like you said, the art that really resonates is the one that has truth to it. AI may not be able to create a universal human truth, but as we become more dependent and we're studying things that we didn't study before, like why does certain sounds make you feel sad? So as AI learns more about how to manipulate or influence or capture the attention of humans, do you feel people who want to hear live music, that'll become niche, while the mass may be eating McDonald's, only some people are eating healthy? What's your thought on that?
I'm very optimistic,
okay,
because I do believe in the power of human creativity and humanity and our shared experience to be able to communicate that through music and art. It's unique to us, I think. But in the same breath, I would say we cannot underestimate generative AI. You talk about unsupervised learning. You talk about how fast AI is evolving and getting better. And every time a producer that's a great producer prompts AI, it's learning. And it's seeing, oh, this didn't. If you got some of the world's best producers all using AI and prompting, and how that's building on itself. So I think there's going to be a space for human creativity. I know there is. I have to believe that in my heart. I just really need to think that we're not going to all succumb to just sitting around listening to music that was generated by AI. But I don't think we can take that for granted. I don't think we should sit back and just accept the fact that we're going to persevere and we're going to survive, because without some real advocating and without legislation, without us adapting and changing how we do things, and without us really competing and driving for new great work, we would have the danger in my mind that we could slip into a place where we're just listening to generated AI music. And I don't love that thought.
And we're addicted to it because it's part of our algorithm, because our algorithm knows what we like already.
Yeah.
So
And that's going to be a part of it for sure. But I still believe in human creativity and the power that we have to make a music that can move each other and continue to connect us.
all right, I vote for you, Harvey.
Harvey, the Grammy nominations for 2025 are coming out November 8th. We're talking to you. It'll take place Sunday, February 2nd, 2025 at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles. What is the anticipation that we can maybe a little sneak peek at something you guys are working out exclusively that you can share with us that'll get us excited about the nominations and the event next year?
You can definitely expect that the nominations are going to be incredible. They've gotten better and better to me each year with the evolution of our membership. Our membership has totally evolved over the last 4 years since I've been here, and since we've instituted some new membership programs with our board and our elected leadership. We've got 66% of our membership is all new. We've got almost 40% people of color that have come into our membership. We've increased by 3,000 women our membership. So to me, what you can expect is more representative nominations, continue to evolve across genres and gender, and a lot of parity. But the thing we have to remember is this is about excellence. This is about who's making the music of this year that our members think is excellent. And that is so subjective. You never know when something's going to pop up that people are like, oh, we love that. This isn't about charts or popularity or streams or likes on social. This is about our 12,000 roughly members who are all music professionals listening to the music and voting. So my hope is you'll see some great noms. It's been a prolific year in music to me. So many great new artists, so many different artists blending genres, going into other areas of music, and so many artists doing things that are new and next. So I think you're going to see that this year in our show. Excited for the noms on the 8th, and then our Grammy telecast show. If you're a follower or a fan of the show, to me, it's evolved as well, and it's tracked on pace with our membership and with the new leadership. Our show is a time to celebrate music and come together. It's not about telling jokes about each other or pointing fingers at each other and tearing people apart. It's about bringing people together. The way that we celebrate, the way that even our artists sit, the community that we sit in, it's very intentional, and it's all done because I believe in the power of music and I believe in the power of human creators. And so the Grammys will be a celebration of that power and of those creators.
So in other words, if the AI was studying winners for the last years, it would learn that it has to broaden its knowledge of what makes art.
It would have to do that. And it is probably the way it is doing that.
Okay. My last question is, and it comes back to quantifiable art and quantifiable talent. And like you said, it will evolve. It will change. The other thing that's clearly quantifiable is compensation, copyright, how the record labels deal with artists. What are your thoughts, or what advice do you give now to artists who are coming up, who come from maybe independent, and now they've got a song that's viral, and now a label is approaching them and their head is spinning? What do? You can't ask AI, should I take this deal? So what advice do you give to artists coming up in this business to understand the business a little better?
Well, you actually can ask AI, should I take this deal?
Really?
There's some amazing programs. I talked to will.i.am a bit. I'm so honored to call him a friend. We have a relationship where we talk about technology. He's created an app that you can analyze music contracts in. And so
wow,
cool.
That's great.
Cool
I
stuff.
did not know that.
He's doing. It's called FYI, it's called. So to your point, you can ask AI, but bigger than that, what I would suggest an artist do is keep their head down and work and create and make music. A lot of people catch a hit and they look up from where they were and be like, oh, this is incredible. I can buy stuff. People like me, people know me, and they lose focus of how they got there. And to me, the way they got there is by getting into the music and creating. And I hate to keep saying the same thing, but telling your story, telling the personal, passionate stories that you have that made that viral hit for you. If it was a dance song, a party song, or a breakup song, whatever, it was personal to you. It came from something. So I would say continue to do that. Continue to focus on creativity. Don't all of a sudden, because you got a hit, say, oh, I'm going to expand my brand. I'm going to have a makeup line. I'm going to do film. I'm going to do make your music. And then the other thing I would say is, if you have the resources, start to develop a great team. Start to get people around you that can help you with your finances, with your branding, with how you roll out your career, so that you can continue to focus on the music.
All right, Harvey Mason Jr., thank you so much for being on the Brown and Black podcast.
Yes.
The Grammy nominations will be happening November 8th on CBS. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And that's it for this episode of Brown and Black. If you would like to support this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. Your help will allow us to be heard by many more people. You can follow our comments and opinions on @BrownBlackPodcast on Instagram, YouTube, Threads, and Facebook. We'll see you on the next episode of Brown and Black.